Hello once again. We're back for the second movement in Beethoven's 14th Piano Sonata, collectively or colloquially known as the Moonlight Sonata. And the second movement is an Allegretto. Now, this is a movement that perhaps gets less attention than the first movement, which is one of the most famous pieces in classical music, and the third movement, rightly regarded as just as incredible as the first movement, but in a very different way, and maybe my favorite movement in the sonata. More on that when we do the next movement. But this second movement I think is lovely. It is very short. In this recording it's just over 2 minutes long, so it's about a third of the length of the first movement and a quarter of the length of the third and final movement. But I do think it's wonderful. It is very sweet and tender. It is still with a bit of energy, hence the Allegretto, meaning a little bit fast designation, but it's definitely one that gets talked about less than either the first or the third movement. However, I think that is only indicative of the incredible status of the first and third movements, and the second movement in its own right is wonderful. And in fact, my understanding is Franz Liszt, himself a remarkable piano composer, once called this second movement a flower between two chasms. So yes, the deep and powerful nature of both the first and third movements is undeniable, but this is very much a flower. I agree with Mr. Liszt. So let's give this a listen. It is the second movement of Beethoven's 14th Piano Sonata, which is an Allegretto, and it is here performed by Daniel Barenboim. Lovely. Again, quite short, but I think it serves as a very effective bridge between those two monumental chasms of the first movement with its sublime and melancholy atmosphere, and the third movement with its ferocious and vivacious energy. More on that in a moment. And since I mentioned Liszt in his retrospective analysis of the second movement specifically and overall the sonata, I should mention this was composed in, I think, 1801, and a year after he composed it, Beethoven dedicated this to one of his students. I forget the woman's name, but I think she was like a countess or something, so a member of a significant family who had come to a great master for lessons. But yes, ultimately he did dedicate it to her, so it is, as I said, a lovely bridge, this movement, between movements 1 and 3, and as I said, the Allegretto designation, you can feel it's light and it is melodic and lyrical, but it still has a bit of movement to it. It still has some kinetic energy. So, yes, a delightful little movement, and I'm very much looking forward to the third movement, which is, as I said, maybe my favorite. No one can deny the beauty of the first movement, the sublime and even pensive beauty of that opening movement. But the third movement is truly something special, and if you haven't heard it before, buckle your seatbelts and brace for some intensity. And of course, I'm looking forward to concluding with a great finale this lovely week of classical days, which I've enjoyed immensely, and I hope you have too. So, from the dreaming of moonlight, Luca and I will see you for the next movement in a moment. Peace.